This is an NBC News special report. Here's Joe Fryer.
We're coming on the air with breaking news and reports of a shooting incident in Minneapolis. The city says there is an active police situation at Annunciation Church, that the shooter is contained, and that there's currently no active threat to the community. No official word yet on how many victims. Governor Tim Walz says that he has been briefed on the situation and that he is praying for the kids and teachers who are in school there. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Adrian Broadus. Adrian, you and I have both worked in Minneapolis. It is my hometown. Annunciation Church is well known in South Minneapolis. It is not just a church. It is also a pre-K through 8th grade school that did begin classes just this past Monday. What are we learning right now?
Joe, you know that so well, and you know what the first week of school is like for many of students, not only in that neighborhood, but across the country. And now students there at Annunciation Church will have this as their first week memory. We're still waiting to hear from Minneapolis police, who have a heavy presence there on scene. We do not know how many people were injured. We do not know what led to this. We know the initial reports started coming in around 8 this morning. And I spoke with a source at the Hennepin County Medical Center, HCMC. That is the level 1 trauma hospital there in the city. And they are quite busy right now. My source telling me they're dealing with, quote, a mass casualty situation, calling this a crisis. So we're waiting to hear official word from Minneapolis police. And the last 24 hours, Joe, have been extremely violent and tough for officers and investigators there in Minneapolis. Before this active shooter incident, they were investigating 3 separate shootings within a 24-hour time span, including a mass shooting that injured 6 people and 1 person died in that shooting. So now these officers are stretched thin once again as they're trying to determine what happened here. But the latest information we received from the city of Minneapolis is that there is an active police situation at Annunciation Church, which, as we've been telling you throughout the morning, it's also connected to a school, which is pre through 8th grade, the first week of school for students there. There is no active threat to the community at this time. The shooter is contained. So we're waiting to hear who that shooter was, why the shooter was there, and why that person targeted this school and church in South Minneapolis, Joe.
And Adrian, what we also know, according to the school's website there, classes started on Monday, and on the schedule was an 8:15 a.m. Wednesday morning all-school mass. If that was happening, that would have been taking place, the mass, at the time that the shooting was first reported. Again, we are expecting to hear more from Minneapolis city officials in about a half an hour to learn more information about what may have happened here at Annunciation Church in Minneapolis as the investigation is ongoing. Let's bring in NBC News law enforcement contributor Evie Pompouris. Evie, tell us what is happening right now with the investigation, especially with the word that there's no active threat to the community at this time and that the shooter is contained. What is the focus for not just Minneapolis police, but also the State Patrol that's on the scene and the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which is sort of like the FBI for the state of Minnesota?
Yeah, so let's break this down into components. We know the shooter's contained, and when you hear that, you want to think, okay, self-inflicted gunshot wound, which sometimes happens in these active shooter scenarios where the shooter takes his own life. Was it somebody there physically at the school, perhaps that was armed, or was it by police? So those are the 3 things you're going to think of, like what happened to this shooter, and these are the 3 lanes. You're going to secure the environment. The next most important thing, obviously, are the injured. As you're saying, we're hearing mass casualty, going to a trauma 1 hospital, and something you just mentioned before. We did that in the U.S. Secret Service as well. Trauma 1 means it's a hospital that can deal with the most trauma, gunshot wounds. So that's absolutely where you want to go when you have a scenario like this, because they have the tools and the skills to save lives. And so that's going to be the next most important thing happening. And then the levels of investigation, right? Once all this gets sorted out, and because these are the most important things, shooter and then obviously victims now. you're looking now at the investigation. So you mentioned the mass, 8:15 a.m. mass. Okay, so the individual committed this. Did they target that mass? Where exactly did the shooting take place? In the school or in the church? And then you're going to want to look at, was the shooter tied to the school or the church in some way? Right? Was there a connection? Sometimes, not all, but sometimes we may see a connection with the shooter to the location that they decide to take action. And so you're going to look at those different things. Another thing, did they communicate this? We do often see that in these active shooter scenarios, did they communicate this? Did they post this? Did they tell anybody? One of the common denominators when you see these types of shootings, they will communicate it in some way, shape, or form. Right? And then what was the goal? Because again, this is quite heartbreaking. You're looking at pre-K through 8th grade, very young children, a very terrifying scenario in the first week of school. And even if you look at the reporting for this week, there were even multiple college campuses that dealt with a lot of calls, active shooter calls. The majority of those did turn out to be swatting calls. So they would turn out to be false. But you actually had multiple schools, first, second week of school, going into lockdown. So we're seeing something really significant happening. Active shooting scenarios, and then also these false scenarios happening at these schools. Very terrifying.
Just as the school year is getting started for so many, most in Minnesota, actually in public schools, don't begin until the day after Labor Day, but some of the private schools, including Annunciation, starting earlier this week. Evie, Adrian mentioned this has been an especially violent last 24 hours in Minneapolis, including another shooting in another part of South Minneapolis yesterday afternoon. 7 people shot, 1 killed. At last check, no suspect there. Presumably, will police be looking to see if there is any link between these shootings?
You know, I don't know, because when you're looking at violent crime on the street, it's different than violent crime like this, right? So we're looking at 2 very different scenarios. I immediately don't think in my head that they're connected. I'm not saying that they're not, but it depends what kind of shootings those were. Were they on the, you know, altercations on the street? Where did they take place? This is different. This is, I'm going to a specific place, a school, a place of worship with children to conduct a mass shooting. So to me, those are 2 very different elements. Violent crime, although this is violent crime, but violent crime, as you're talking within the 24 hours in the city, in that area, is different than something like this, typically to someone like me. Again, we can't say that they're not connected, but this is someone who, did they plan it? Did they do reconnaissance, right? Their weapon, that's the other thing. Law enforcement's going to look at the weapon. Did they get it? Was it legally purchased? How did they get it? How long did they have it? They're going to go through even their devices. Did they research this? How long did they research this? How long did they plan this out? How did they know about the 8:15 mass, right? All these different things. So from the point I'm at now, I don't see them as connected. Again, as we get more information, that may reveal different significance.
All right, Evie, thank you so much. We do want to bring in retired ATF Special Agent in Charge, Jim Kavanaugh. And Jim, we are also getting word from Hennepin Healthcare that a news conference will be taking place, scheduled for about 10 minutes from now, with an update on patients after this shooting. Hennepin County Medical Center is the primary level 1 trauma center there in Minneapolis. Jim, we have about a minute left here, but tell us, what is the investigation? What are police focused on most right at this moment?
Well, they're focused on the victims, the Family Reunification Center, making sure they're notified quickly what the situation is with the families, and they really need to be focused on getting word out to the community, which they've put out a word that, you know, the shooter is contained or, you know, maybe deceased, but they need to speak more clearly. They did good on that, but they need to get out there, be the face, be the chief, get out there, reassure the community. This can be a devastating day for Minneapolis. A rifle on children. Some early reports said it might have been in the street, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and that will be one of the primary questions that we hope to get answered from city officials, is exactly where this shooting took place. And also the city of Minneapolis saying that it has set up a reunification zone nearby the scene of this incident. No active threat to the community at this time. The shooter is contained at this time. All right, and we now can confirm the gunman did die from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. We are going to be back on the air for that hospital news conference, and as news warrants, this concludes our NBC News special report. More ahead on News Daily and our streaming network, NBC News Now, and online at NBCnews.com. A full wrap-up tonight on Nightly News. I'm Joe Fryer. Thanks for watching.
We now join our regularly scheduled program already in progress. We now join our regularly scheduled program already in progress.